Hi everyone, Vinay here. Welcome back to my channel Learn Coding with Vinay and the playlist ASP.NET Core MVC. In this video, we will go over validations in ASP.NET Core MVC application. We will go over simple validation using data annotation and then move to the custom validation as well. Let me tell you, let me explain further what we are going to cover in this video. So we will work on a simple employee model example, right? We will have few properties with certain validation. For example, we will have name that will be required, we'll have address that will be required, email required and valid email, confirmation again required, valid email, and compare validator. Basically email and confirm email should be same. Mobile number required 10 digit number only using regular expression. Salary required and range validation. Birth date required, joining date required, and project start date required. Right. And then we will move to the custom validation, because sometimes there will be need which will require custom code to be written, because by simply writing data annotation we cannot achieve those validations. So for them we will have to use custom validations. Right. For example, email should not be already registered or existing in our database or something. Right. However, we will not be touching database over here, but we'll have a dummy store. Right. Then, once the birthday is entered, we can only employ a person if that person is 18 or 18 plus, right? And project start date. The project start date should always be greater than or that day based on the joining date, right? So it should be either the joining date or a date greater than the joining date, because a person can only work on a project after joining, right? So project start date cannot be a less date than the joining date, lesser date than the joining date, right? So let's move further over here. Let me bring the application now, right? So I have created already MVC application, one with name validation in MVC, and it has these default menus coming up: home and privacy. So at this moment, if we click on home, it takes us on home. At this moment, we click on privacy, it takes us on privacy page, right? Quite simple. Now what next we will be doing is we will be adding one more menu over here, employee, and move ahead. So let me close this. Let's go ahead and open more views and sad. Go to views, sad, and sad layout. Let's go to views, sad layout.cshtml. So we'll just copy this privacy link and paste it below. Control C, V, and we will change the method name, controller name, and the menu. So let's start with the menu. Let's make it employee, and then controller will work on the employee controller later, but as of now I'll just write employee over here also. Employee, and method would be, rather than index, we will be working on create form, so method will be create, because we will be working on creating an employee form. And how we will not be saving it into the database, but we will just work on the validation. So let's save it and close this, and let's move further. Now let's go ahead and add employee menu. Sorry, employee model. We already added the menu. Now let's go ahead and add model. Let's right click on models and add class and employee menu. I beg your pardon, it is taking time in my machine today. Add class. Let's give it a name employee.cs. Add it. And I have already created properties. I'll just copy paste it to save time. Let me copy paste the properties over here, and I'll explain what we are taking over here. So we are taking very simple properties. If you see this, let me, I think I'm missing bracket over here. So just corrected the mobile property. So let's go ahead and understand this model. So what we are doing, we are keeping it quite simple. ID will always be the primary key. Then name, address, email. These are three string properties. Confirm email, again a string property. Then mobile, long. Salary, decimal. Birth date, joining date, and project start date. Right. So these properties are, by the name itself, we can know what data they are going to hold. Right. Now let's save this and move ahead. Now model is created. Let's go ahead and add the controller. So we'll add the employee controller. So right click on controller, add controller, and give it a name employee controller. So from we will take this read and write action so that we have the ready-made create get and create post method. Let's give it a name employee. Enter. So the controller is created. Let me just go ahead and correct the typo I had in confirm email. So yeah, okay, confirm email. So now it looks good. Now let's go ahead and add the create actually view. So we'll go on create get method, right click and add view. We'll say right click on create add view. We'll take the second option and we'll be generating the view using the model, employee model. So from here it's create template, we will select create model, we will select employee and add. Yeah. So the view has been generated. Let's take a look at it quickly. What we have received. So for every control, there will be three. This in the div there will be three control: one label, second input, and the third for this topic. Important one, which is validation message for each control, right? And if you can see, we can see the summary validation control over here. And for each control, there will be a span which will display the error message corresponding to that particular one property. Right. So let's go ahead and run this and see. The application has loaded successfully. Let's click on employee link and we can see the form loaded, create form loaded, right? Let's just go ahead and click on create button directly and let's see what is happening. Right, see the error messages are popping up. Right, so this is good. This is the default behavior, whatever data annotation. So by default, actually, if we go to employee, since we have marked everything as mandatory, it is giving us those error message with the default name, property name, right? So let's improve this, because first thing we need to improve is to we don't need ID over here, right? Because for ID it will be generated from the database itself, right? So we don't need it. And let's work on improving these error messages as well, right? So let's close this. And another best practice is, we should never use our actual entity while displaying the record, or we should never have validation in our actual entity. So we should not have our validation related logic in this employee class itself. Rather, we would create a employee VM and we will have the logic over there. So let's do that. So let's go ahead and create one more model, give it a name. I'll just copy the employee model itself. Let's go ahead and rename it, give it, we'll make it, mark it as employee VM. We'll mark it as employee VM. Over here also we'll have to mark it employee VM. Let's mark it employee VM, and we don't need this ID over here. And the validation messages and everything we'll put down over here. So let's go one by one. For the name, what we want name to be required, and let's say that we also want to give it of certain length only, right? So what we'll be doing, we'll be adding required tag over here, and it has to be from data annotation. So let me just correct the namespace first. Right. So what we did, we are marking name as required, and we are also planning to have it of only 10 character only. Right. So we don't want it more than 10 character. This is for the example. Actually, real name should be more than that, but this is for the example. What kind of validation we can apply on a particular property, right? Similar way, what we will be doing, we will have the other validation on others also. So I have it ready made available. I'll just copy paste it and explain, right? So let me just go ahead and correct few things. So employee exists as of now. We'll create this later actually. This one also, and this one also, right? And I think we are missing confirm email. So let me go ahead and do that also, right? Confirm email is required, valid email is required, and we'll call it confirm email. Right. Let's save it. So let me explain what we have done. So address we are marking is at required field, and we are making sure that it is of length 50 only. Right. Again, address should be more than that, but for this validation example, I am keeping the length up to 50 only. Then email, similar way, emails is required, and it should be a valid email format only, right? Not some random string. It has to be follow the email template. Right. Again, confirm email, the same validation. Mobile number, we are marking it as long, and we are taking it as we are going to make sure that it is required, and at the same time it is of 10-digit number only. Right. And next is the salary. Now salary, we are again making sure that it is required, and it is range from 1 to the max number of double. Right. Ideally we can put down any number, like say 1 lakh, 2 lakh, whatever it is. Right. Now then the birthday is required as of now, no further validation, right? Then we have the joining date, again it is required. Then we have the project start date, again it is required. And we are taking this display name. Let me have this display name for joining date, and this one also, because what happens when we create the form using that scaffold option that we just did, right? The label names are actually your property names only, right? So sometimes we don't want that, some we want it, it with a proper naming, proper spacing on everything, right? So what do we need to do, we'll just have the display name attribute over here and put down the desired name. So let me put down over here project start date. One more thing we want to change is, let's go to create CSHTML and take this as VM now, right? Not the employee entity. And let's go to controller also, and in this post method, let's have employee VM emp. Let's take it from the models, and let's check if model state is valid. If I will say, if model state is not valid, then what we'll be doing, we will simply return it to the view with the same employee data. And if the model is valid, then we'll redirect it to the index method of home controller. So ideally, if everything is okay, we should save it into the database, but we are not covering saving to the database in this example we have already covered in some other CRUD operation example videos, right? So I'll request you guys to go ahead and watch those videos, right? But as of now, what we did in the create post method, we pass the employee VM, and if we are checking if it is valid or invalid. If it is invalid, we are returning the view with that data, and so that error messages are displayed. And if it is successful, then we are redirecting it to the home and index page. Now let's go ahead and run this. So it has given me error saying does not current definition of ID. Okay, yeah, because we missed to remove the ID from here. So let me comment it out as of now. Just save it and rerun it. Okay, so let's go ahead and click on employee link. The form is loaded. Let's go ahead and click on create directly. Right. Now the error messages are, the messages we gave it to you, we gave it, like name is required, address is required, right? All those things. Let's check one by one whether this is working nice or not. If I write Vinay Patel over here, right? So we have taken, remember, we have taken name as of 10 character only. It is not allowing me to put down L over here because it is more than that. So let me give this name. Address, I will say just my address only. Okay. Email, I would say learn coding with Vinay at the rate gmail.com. Right. I'll say random at the rate some gmail.com. Right. Mobile, let's say 8104124510. Salary, let's say 50,000. Birth date, let's say today's date. Joining date, let it be as of now today's date, and project start date also let it be today's date. Right. So this is good. Now ideally it should have generated this message. Okay. If I go ahead and click create now, if there are no errors, then it should take us onto the home page. Let's see. Yeah, so it has taken us to the home page, and it did not generate error for the email and confirm email because I probably missed the logic for confirm email. So let me go ahead and go to employee VM. Yeah, so we have the this for email, right? This is good, but I'll have to add, compare validator over here, which I missed. So let me just go ahead and add it. So in the confirm email, we will have to put down, oh, sorry, my bad. Again, let me just, I have it ready. Let me copy it and paste it over here again. For some reason, copy paste is not working. Yeah. So now it work. What we are doing, compare. We are saying it compare. First is the property which we are supposed to compare with. So this property will be compared with the value of this property, right? And then if they are not matching, it will display the message accordingly. So let me save it and run it again. Let's go ahead and click on employee link. The form is loaded. Let's try to enter the value again, the same value we entered. Let me take this. Okay, let this be. Let me have something else over here. Right, so now it pops up that email and confirm email must match. Mobile number is okay. Salary, let me take anything. Let me take today's date. Let me take today's date over here also. And let me take today's date over here also. If I go ahead and click on create, then since the emails are not matching, it will not take us to the index home page. Right, ideally it should be, on an employee list page or something, but that's okay. We are not implementing database save, so I have kept this. Right. So at this moment, all these validations are working fine. Let me go ahead and put, some minus value over here. Then also it is the range validator is also fine. Compare validator is also working fine. Let me go ahead and remove this. Right. If I say create, then name is required, so required is also working fine. So basically whatever we could achieve with data annotation, that we have done. Now the next thing we want to do is to implement the custom validation. The first is we will be implementing, this email should not be already registered in the system. Right, so let's go ahead and work on that. So let me close this. So for that, what do we need to do? We'll have to create a custom validator classes, and in that class we'll have to have the method that actually checks for the required validation. Right, so what we'll be doing, let's create one more, because we'll be adding more validations, custom validations. So we'll create a dedicated validator folders in the project. So we'll just say right click, add folder, we'll give it a name, validators. In that we'll add one more class, add class, we'll give it a name, email already exists attribute.cs, and this we need to inherit from validation attribute, right? Because that's how we will be implementing it. Now let me go ahead and copy paste the validation logic, and I'll explain. Right, so what we are doing over here is, I have taken some random email addresses as part of a store. Ideally this should come from database. So what I'm doing as of now, I'm just hard coding these two email addresses, and if the entered email is one of these, then what we are doing, we are returning it as a failure, and we are saying that email already exists with us. Ideally this portion of code should be replaced with some code that checks into the database, right? So let's save this. Let's go to employee VM, and on the email, let's apply the email exists, and it has to inherit from here, it has to be from the validators. So for each validator, sir, custom validator, we'll have to create a class and a method, because that actually overrides these validation attributes. This method is valid, ideally returns either true or false boolean. For every custom validation we will have to create one class and one method that has its own logic, right? So this is the first example. Let's go ahead and run it and see. Let's go ahead and click on employee link. Let's just add the detail we used to add. Right, so this is coming good. Now let me actually this be admin, and let this be admin also, and let's put down rest of the values. As of now I am taking any random date, right? So since this admin at the @gmail we have already in database, it should give us the errors saying that the email already exists in the database. Let's see. Right, so it worked correctly, email already registered, right? Remember, custom validations will fire after your data validations, right? So it will always be posted to the server, right? While data annotations are actually depending on whether JavaScript is enabled or disabled. Ideally first they will fire on the client side, and then they'll fire on the server side also, right? So this is one example. So let me go ahead and do it for HR also, and let's see if it works fine. Let me go ahead and create it. Should still give us error. Okay, excellent. Now if I just go ahead and say vinay@gmail.com, vinay@gmail.com. So at this moment, we ideally there is no error on the form. If I say create, then it should take us on the home page. Yeah, correctly. So it took us to the home and index page. Let me go ahead and click again on the employee page. Now one example of custom validation we have created. Now we'll work on the second example, that whenever birth date is entered, it should check if the employee is of either 18 or 18 plus or not, right? Second, once the joining date and project dates are also entered, project date should always be greater than the joining date. Basically, a future date than the joining date. Right. So let's go ahead and implement those two validations. So let me close this. Let's go ahead and add one more class over here. Let's take the birth date example, which is quite simple. So let me give it a name, age 18 or above attribute. Right? And we'll have to keep this naming convention similar, right? Because that's how it will work. Otherwise, it won't work. So it has to be name attribute.cs. Right? So age 18 or above, that is our name, and that is the name we will be using as a attribute in square bracket, written in square bracket, right, on model. Right. So let's go ahead and add this, and let me just copy paste it, the code I have, and I'll explain it. Right. So over here, what we are doing, we are checking whether the coming value, which is a date, and we are calculating certain logic, and based on that we are calculating the age. And if age is less than 18, then we are saying that okay, employee must be at 18, or must be 18 or 18 plus, right? And if this is not, then ultimately we are returning true, then there will be no validation file, right? It's quite simple logic, just we are calculating age based on the birth date, right? Because here we will receive the birth date as input, right? Let me go ahead and save this, and let's add one more validator. Add class, and let's give it a name. This time let's give it a name, project start date after joining date attribute, right? Let's say add, and let me go ahead and replace with the logic that we need, right? And let me take it over here. Right, again here we will be receiving the project start date, but we also want the project joining date, joining date from the employee object, right? So that is one thing you will see which is different over here, that we are retrieving the employee model entire itself, and from that piece we will be retrieving the joining date, right? And project date we can already get from this value, right? And here we are checking if project start date is less than the joining date, then we are saying that project start must be greater than or equal to the joining date. Now let me go ahead and save this, and let's put down those attribute on the required field. So on the birth date we want to put down age 18 or above, and on the project start date we want to put down project start date after joining date, right? Now let me save this and run this. Let's go ahead and click on employee. Let's work on the same example we were working. So let's put it down. Let's okay, this let it be, this is be salary, let's say anything. Now let's take birthday as today's date as of now. Let's take joining date as today's date, and the project date as a day before yesterday. So basically yesterday's date. Let's say create. Right. So we have the error message saying employee must be at least 18 years old, right? So let's go ahead and just change this year, let's say 1998, right? If I say create, right, so error message for birthday is gone, but project start date must be greater than or equal to joining date, that is coming, because this is joining date is today's date and this is yesterday's date, right? So let's go ahead and take today's date, this one also, and this one also, let me take today's date, right? Let me go ahead and create now. So it should take us to the home page, right? Let's try one more time, just to be, just to make sure it is working fine. And let me go ahead and just say create. So everything is working fine. Let's try putting values, Vinay. Let's try put down something. Let me write something over here, right? The email are not matching, message is coming up, which is good. Mobile number, if I only enter 9, it is asking to put down 10. Salary, if I put down minus value, it is giving us the error message, which is also fine, right? Let's go ahead and take birthdays as today's date, not today's date, let's say some random date from, I would say, January, let's say December. Joining date, let's say today's date. And this, let me take some random back date. Let's say create. Right, so we should have the message. So first it gave us the message for employee must be at least of 18 years old. Right, so let's go ahead and change the year for this guy. So let's make this 2000. Right, so this I have taken the future date actually. Let me take this back date. Let's go ahead and create. So again, this is today's date and this is some last month date. Right, so that is the reason it is popping up this message. Let's go ahead and change this to today's date, and let's create. So ideally it should take us onto the home index page because validations are all passed, there is no error. Right, so I hope to like the video. And to summarize, what we have done, we have covered the validations using data annotations and custom validations as well. With data annotation we can achieve simple validations, right? Required field, compare validation, right? Maybe some regular expression and some built-in validation like whether a text is an email or not, right? So simple validation are achieved using data annotations. And there are certain business rule, right, for which cannot be achieved by using just data annotation. So for that we'll have to write custom code, right? So we have covered using custom validation. Those validation we have covered using custom validation. Example are the email whether exist already in our system or not, age must be 18 or greater than 18, right? And the project start date must be greater than the project sorry organization joining date, right? So I hope you like the video, and I'll request you to subscribe to my channel Learn Coding with Vinay. Check out more videos in the playlist ASP.NET Core MVC. And again, thanks for watching the video. We'll see you in some another video. Thanks a lot, guys.